Hello, class. Today we're going to look at capital demand forecasting. Through today's lesson, can let the students understand the common method of enterprise capital demand forecast, ability to use relevant forecasting methods, forecast the capital needs of the enterprise. So let's look at the first method, qualitative forecasting method. Qualitative forecasting relies on the personal experience of the forecaster, subjective analysis and judgment ability, funding requirements for future periods, methods for making estimates and projections. We usually hold a symposium of professional personnel. You can also use our experts to conduct our demonstration. This is our qualitative forecasting method. Now let's look at the second method, quantitative forecasting method. The first is quantitative forecasting. We mean based on historical data. Adopt teaching model. Capital requirements for future periods. Methods of making predictions. The prediction results are scientifically accurate. It has high feasibility, but it's more complicated to calculate. Therefore, we are required to have complete historical data. In our quantitative forecasting method, we divide it into factor analysis, percentage of sales method, and our linear regression analysis. Let's take a look at them in turn. Let's first learn about factor analysis. Factor analysis is also called analytical adjustment method. It is based on the average capital requirement for the base period of the project concerned, based on the forecast annual production and operation tasks, and our cash flow acceleration requirements. Carry out our analysis adjustment, a way to predict the demand for capital. The formula for calculating it is the average amount of funds occupied in the base period. Subtract unreasonable amounts of money. Multiply by 1 plus the projected sales growth rate. 1 plus the growth rate of capital turnover in the forecast period. This is the formula for our quantitative forecasting method. Let's take a look at the percentage of sales method. Percentage of sales method, based on the relationship between sales growth and asset growth. Such a method of predicting the future demand for funds. Our percentage of sales method. It is a sales factor that reflects the scale of production and operation, and asset factors that reflect the possession of funds. Connect with, based on the volume ratio between sales and assets. Estimated external financing requirements of the enterprise. This is the second method of quantitative forecasting. Percentage of sales method. Let's take a look. The basic steps of the percentage of sales method. First step, first of all, we need to be sure sensitive assets and sensitive liabilities, and figure out our sales percentage. The second step is to use the percentage of sales that has been determined, some estimated sales, estimate our assets and our liabilities. The third step is to calculate retained earnings and owner's equity for the forecast period. In the fourth step, we will calculate the external financing requirements for the forecast period. That's what we do with the percentage of sales method. A basic step. Below we go through the basic steps of our sales comparison method. Let's take a look at this case. Dahua Company. Summary balance sheet as at December 31st, 2021. And related information, as shown in the table. Let's say our Dahua Company was in 2-1. Its sales have 100 million yuan. The net profit on sales is 10%. The profit retention rate is 40%. Sales are expected to grow 20% in 2. The company has enough capacity to produce. No additional investment in fixed assets is required. I would like to ask at this time, how much external financing is needed? Please follow the steps we have just described. So let's do the math. First step, we need to make sure. Related item. The percentage that relates to sales. From our table, it can be known that N indicates no change. It means that the item does not change with the change of sales. The second step is we need to be sure we increased the amount of money. You can see from the table. Every 100 yuan increase in sales revenue must increase the capital possession by 50 yuan. But at the same time, it automatically increases the funding source by $15. About 35% of the difference generated the need for subvention. So for every $100 increase in sales revenue, the company must obtain a funding source of $35. Sales increased from 100 million to 120 million. We added 20 million in total. At our 35% rate, it is predicted that the capital demand will increase by 7 million yuan. The third step, we need to be sure such an amount of external financing needs. In Q2, our net profit was $12 million. The retention rate of profits is 40%. We will have such a profit of 4.8 million. It was preserved. And $2 million in funding. Financing must come from outside. So in this problem, our external financing requirements, it's equal to 2,000 times 50% minus 2,000 times 15%. 10% times 40%. Multiply that by 12,000. So in the end, we calculated it. That's $2 million. Now let's get to our last one. Linear regression analysis. Linear regression analysis is assumed capital requirements. The existence of a linear relationship with the volume of business. The mathematical model is established. And then based on our history of relevant information, use our regression linear equation to determine the parameters. A method of forecasting the demand for funds. This method, our formula is right here. We can see. In our formula, we have this graph here. Then we can see Y represents a demand for money. A stands for constant money. B stands for our unit business volume, required changes in funds. X is the volume of our business. Y is equal to our A plus BX. This is our linear regression analysis. Through today's study, we let the students know our two methods of capital demand forecasting, qualitative forecasting and quantitative forecasting. In our quantitative forecasting method, we also have the percentage of sales method, factor analysis. And then there's our linear regression analysis. Thank you for watching. Thank you.